After I uninvited my fiancé's overbearing twin sister for secretly trying to cancel our wedding without telling me, he shocked me by taking her side and accusing me of overreacting. Now I'm left wondering if I can even trust the man I was about to marry or if this wedding should happen at all. My fiancé Nate, 27, and I, 26, have been a couple for almost 3 years. He proposed about half a year ago, and shortly thereafter we discovered I was expecting. We're planning our wedding for the spring of next year. Nate has a twin sister, also 27, whom we'll call Kayla. Nate and I announced our engagement and my pregnancy simultaneously. We put up a sweet little Facebook update with a couple of engagement pictures and an ultrasound photo. It read something to the effect of, "The Smith family is about to welcome 2 new members." Kayla commented almost instantly, declaring that we'd have to postpone the actual wedding until next year because autumn shades complement her best, and as my maid of honor, she'd have a say in selecting the bridesmaid dresses. I literally stared at my phone, wondering if I'd misread. I showed the comment to Nate and inquired why she believed she would be my maid of honor. He had no clue. So I messaged her, and here's how that conversation unfolded. Me: "Hi Kayla. I see you noticed our Facebook announcement. Thank you for being ready to support me, but we haven't begun organizing wedding specifics yet, and I haven't chosen my bridesmaids, let alone my maid of honor. Once we have more wedding details ironed out, we'll inform you." Kayla: "Well, you don't need to choose a maid of honor anymore. I am your maid of honor." Me: "I don't understand. I never asked you to be." Kayla: "You don't have to ask. That's what makes me such a wonderful sister." Me: "I apologize, but you are not my maid of honor." Kayla: "We'll see about that." I showed these messages to Nate, who assured me he would handle it. I have no idea the extent of their discussion, but Kayla never brought up being my maid of honor again. She simply exhibited her unpleasant demeanor in different ways. As of now, Nate and I have secured the venues, caterer, florals, decorations, and the DJ. A couple of months ago, I invited my mother, Nate's mother, along with my sister, Sam, whom I asked to be my maid of honor for some dress shopping. Kayla found out from her mother and invited herself to come along. We began by searching for a dress for Sam. I envisioned my bridesmaids in a lovely pastel yellow, but Sam's gown was intended to be more golden. Kayla relentlessly complained about how yellow was such an unappealing color, and suggested I opt for pink or blue instead. She even grabbed a stack of pink and blue dresses to try on herself. I tried my utmost to disregard her, while her mother entertained her peculiar notions. Sam and my mother continuously remarked that it was my wedding, and if Kayla wasn't going to be helpful, she should simply depart. Unfortunately, she didn't, and I'm too agreeable to dismiss her in front of my future mother-in-law, with whom I already have a tense relationship. Our mothers managed to shop for their dresses with minimal interference from Kayla, but as soon as I began trying things on, she had an abundance of remarks. She would tell me that certain styles wouldn't suit me once I had a baby body, and even suggested I consider not wearing white since I was, obviously, not a virgin. I retorted that she wasn't a virgin when she married either, yet she still wore an adorable white sundress to the courthouse. She grumbled that it wasn't the same, but I was already halfway back to the changing room. I still don't know what transpired while I was in there, but when I emerged, Kayla and my future mother-in-law were gone, and Sam wore a smug grin. I never shared any wedding details with Kayla if I could avoid it, but I've overheard Nate sharing some of our plans with her. He mentioned we were considering a buffet-style meal because of numerous dietary restrictions within our families, and it was the most economical way to accommodate everyone, a difference of literally a few thousand. She told him he deserved someone who wouldn't be frugal with his wedding, despite the buffet being his suggestion. He informed her of our venue selections. He chose the reception venue. I chose the ceremony venue, which is the same place my parents married. My father passed away, and since he cannot escort me down the aisle, I always wished to marry in the same location he married my mother, to somewhat feel his presence. She told Nate that my venue choice was tacky, and people would mock us. When he mentioned he desired a DJ, she commented that she knew I wasn't classy enough to want a live band. Each time she made such remarks, Nate would tell her they were his ideas, but he wouldn't rebuke her for how she spoke about me, which honestly stung a little. I've expressed this to him, and he said he would endeavor to be better about confronting her, but she's just always been this way. I told him that was no justification for her disrespect or meddling in matters that don't concern her. He reluctantly assented. On Friday, I received an email from our ceremony venue confirming our cancellation and inquiring if we needed to reschedule. Shortly after, I got a voicemail from our caterer explaining that my new wedding planner had just called, but the line had disconnected, and they wondered if I could provide her number so they could finalize menu alterations. I immediately emailed the venue back, stating that no, we were not canceling or rescheduling, and to please retain our original date. I contacted the caterer, who explained that a woman had called, claiming to be my new wedding planner. She had stated that I wished to make changes to the contract, specifically switching from a buffet style to plated meals. I informed him this was incorrect, that I did not have a wedding planner, and to please make no changes unless contacted directly by me or Nate, using the contact information we have on file. The caterer suggested adding a password to the file, and he confirmed he wouldn't make any changes unless the person requesting them knew the password. I called both venues and all our other vendors to implement similar precautions. They all offered their sympathies for me having to deal with this. When Nate returned home from work, I confronted him. I told him someone attempted to cancel my venue and alter our catering. I told him the only person it could be was Kayla. He tried to deny it, claiming she wouldn't do such a thing, but I reminded him of how she'd undermined and insulted me throughout every stage of this engagement. I told him I wanted her uninvited. I wouldn't give someone who had already done so much to make this wedding stressful the chance to do something like show up in white. He argued with me on this, but I essentially told him I felt disrespected by him due to his allowance of Kayla's treatment towards me. I am his partner and the mother of his child. My feelings and comfort should be more significant to him than his sister's immature antics. We met with her for lunch earlier today, and once we had dessert, he asked her if she was attempting to make changes to our wedding plans. She said, and I quote, "Well, yes, it's the maid of honor's responsibility to ensure the bride is making the correct decisions." Before Nate could even speak, I told her she was not my maid of honor, and even if she were, that would not grant her the authority to undermine our decisions and alter wedding plans and budget behind our backs. She said she didn't understand the big deal since her grandmother had offered us a rather substantial sum as a gift to help cover the wedding costs. I told her again, the wedding budget is none of her concern. She tried to argue, but I simply cut her off. I told her that her conduct regarding our wedding thus far had been nothing but disrespectful and insulting. I told her that attempting to cancel my venue had crossed the line, and she was no longer invited to the wedding. She appeared utterly stunned by this. She looked at Nate, expecting him to defend her, and then he did. He looked at me and said, "Why don't we give her one more chance?" I asked if he was serious. He replied no, that Kayla was only doing what she believed was best for us, and now that we had told her it wasn't acceptable, we should give her an opportunity to correct her behavior. I didn't even respond. I just stood up and left. I got into my car and drove home, pondering to myself that if he wished to side with his sister, then he could rely on her to get home. I ignored his attempts to reach me. Once home, I packed a small bag and departed for Sam's house. I recounted everything to her, and she assured me I could stay as long as I needed. But now she's at work for the night, and that's where I am now, trying to process what just happened, trying to comprehend when I became secondary in Nate's life, trying to figure out if there's any way to mend what he just fractured within me. He keeps oscillating between asking my location, telling me he didn't perceive this as a major issue, apologizing, and asking me to return home to discuss. I don't feel prepared to speak with him just yet. I'm still too distressed, and I feel like I'll do or say something I'll regret, like calling off the wedding entirely. I just informed all my vendors that we aren't canceling the wedding, but right now I kind of want to. I don't know if my hormones are making me feel irrational, or if my feelings of hurt are justified. I just don't know what to do or what to think. So, am I the irrational one for not wanting to grant her a second chance, or is my fiancé correct that she deserves an opportunity to prove herself before being uninvited from the wedding completely? Update 1. I spent last night at Sam's house and largely ignored Nate's texts and calls. Kayla messaged me once as well, advising me not to let my hormones make me irrational. I simply blocked her, but someone suggested unblocking and just silencing her notifications so if she escalates, I might be able to use it in court for my custody case. I did unblock her earlier today, and I'm pleased I did, but we'll get there. I replied to Nate at one point last night, informing him I was safe at Sam's house and would be home tomorrow after work to discuss everything. I reiterated that I felt profoundly hurt by not being heard or supported by him, and that I needed time to decide what I wished to do. He inquired what I meant by that, if I was considering canceling the wedding altogether. I told him that was precisely what I was contemplating. His response: "Don't let your hormones make you do something irrational. We'll talk tomorrow." Anyone else want to guess where he acquired that phrase? That pretty much solidified my decision. I didn't reply, not even when he texted me, "Good night, I love you." Instead, before retiring for the night, I sent him a link to my post and told him to read through it before we conversed. Someone mentioned he probably sent it to Kayla too. If she did read it, she hasn't commented, and if she texted me about it, it was while I had her blocked. This morning I called into work and had breakfast with Sam. She provided me with a number of a family lawyer her friend used for his custody matter. I spoke to the assistant, explained my circumstances, and fortunately, she had an opening after lunch for an initial consultation, so I showered and essentially just kept reading through the comments on my post until it was time to speak with her. I explained to the lawyer precisely why I am separating from Nate, and how terrified I am about his sister's potential influence over him concerning our baby. I don't trust him not to be swayed by Kayla and to prioritize our baby's best interests, so I wish to contend for sole custody and supervised visitation. I told her if possible, I want to include something that restricts Kayla from having any contact with my child. I am already mentally preparing to have to dispute Nate in court, because I know he will not agree to any of this. My lawyer informed me that while my concerns are valid, it might be challenging to persuade a judge to impose a contact restriction in the custody order based solely on family drama. She advised me to document everything Kayla has done and anything moving forward so we can present it to the judge if and when we end up in court. She gave me a list of things to consider, such as whether I want Nate to have any custody at all or just visitation, how I want to manage aspects like medical care or education for my child, and if I want to impose communication restrictions like only speaking via text, many things I never would have considered and never thought I'd have to consider. We were supposed to handle all of this together. She told me to take a few days to collect my thoughts and decide on what I want. I scheduled an in-person meeting for this Friday to review everything. Hopefully, I will have clarity by then, but if anyone has any advice regarding what to include in these custody papers, I'm all ears. After the phone call with my lawyer, I checked some more comments and then took a much-needed nap. When I woke up, I had a text from Nate asking what time I would finish work, so he could have dinner ready for me when I returned home. I told him I would be there around 5, but if Kayla was present, I would turn around and leave without a word. I then asked him if he had read the post I sent him. He replied that he did but would rather talk to me than read me criticize him and his sister on the internet with a bunch of strangers. Don't worry, I told Kayla she's not welcome. This infuriated me beyond belief. Clearly, he either didn't read the post or still doesn't realize how truly mistaken they are. Either way, I lost all motivation to try and resolve things. I'm just finished. I texted him, "Don't concern yourself with dinner. All I will be doing is gathering a few more items and dropping off my lawyer's contact information. There's nothing more for us to discuss." He asked what I meant, "What lawyer?" and told me he'd been waiting to talk about this. All I said was fine. Sam wished me luck before I departed and assured me I was welcome back once we were done talking. I told her I absolutely would be back and thanked her for everything so far. Then I stopped and got one of those refresher drinks from Starbucks to calm my nerves before heading home. When I arrived home, Nate had dinner prepared just as he said. I ignored him and went straight to our room to pack more of my clothes and toiletries. He attempted to ask me if I truly wasn't going to speak with him, but I simply ignored him for the moment. Just seeing his face made my anger intensify, and I wanted to approach our discussion thoughtfully. After a while, he gave up and just went to eat in the dining room. When I was finished, I went and sat with him at the table but didn't touch any of the food. I started a voice memo on my phone before I said, "Go ahead." He looked at me utterly confused, so I told him he was the one who wanted to talk and must have so much to say. "So go ahead." He fumbled over his words for a while but ultimately began with an apology, attempting to tell me he hadn't realized I was so upset with Kayla's behavior. I asked him if he remembered how intensely I cried after returning home from dress shopping because of her comments about my choices and my physique, if he remembered having to speak with her about not being my maid of honor, if he remembered our conversation just a few days ago where I told him my venue, which held so much sentimental value for me, was far beyond the acceptable limit. He affirmed he did each time and tried to add up but to argue, but I just cut him off with my next example. I told him that after all of that, he should have known without a doubt that I was completely fed up with her. I told him I was so hurt and enraged that I wanted her uninvited, but he wanted to give her another chance to do what? Cancel our DJ and book a live band? Dye my dress red? Or show up in white herself? He told me she would never do that. I told him he had told me she would never cancel my venue, but then she admitted to it in front of us. I told him I don't trust his judgment regarding his sister, and that he is just as deluded as she if he believes she will change. I asked him why he even divulged so many details of our wedding to her anyway. Why does her opinion on our wedding even matter? He tried to tell me that because Kayla didn't get to have a real wedding when she married, she was just a little too excited about ours. I told him she has every right in the world to be excited, but that does not grant her any rights to insult or alter our choices regarding what we desire for our wedding. She'll have ample opportunities to have a real wedding if she could pause for 2 seconds and remove her nose from our wedding business, She could go out and find a man or woman to marry herself. Poor soul, whoever that may be. I asked him, "What's next?" "She gets to name our baby since she lost her own." The expression on his face made my stomach feel empty. He told me, and I quote, "Actually, Kayla does have a few ideas for what we could name our daughter." Side note. I had previously mentioned in a comment that we were waiting to be surprised about the gender of our baby. We were discussing baby names and had decided on the top 3 for each gender. We agreed to keep them to ourselves until the baby is born. I asked if he said daughter, and he looked like a deer caught in headlights. He backtracked, but I pressed the matter. I asked him directly if he knew the gender of our baby. He hesitated but ultimately confessed to recalling that I filled out an information release form at my first OB visit, so he called the office and asked them for the results of our gender scan, claiming that we had changed our minds and he was going to do a reveal for me. I feel utterly sick and violated. I asked him what the heck he was thinking. He said Kayla was feeling excluded since Sam was organizing my baby shower and not including her, and that she just couldn't wait to find out. I demanded he tell me everything. What else has he gone behind my back to do? Did he give her the idea to pretend to be our wedding planner? Was he the one who had her cancel my venue and alter our catering? He tried to tell me no, of course not, she did that on her own, but I could just tell that he was being dishonest. He absolutely put her up to all of this. At that point, I didn't even care why he did it. It's clear that none of our decisions will ever truly be ours. He will always do whatever he wants and get Kayla to support him. I don't even want to consider how many of our past decisions were completely undermined and altered by these two. I asked him if Kayla came to him and told him everything I'm telling him, that she doesn't feel supported by her partner, that her partner went behind her back to learn the gender of their baby without her, that her partner was retrospectively changing every decision they had agreed upon, that her partner was allowing their sibling to relentlessly bully her. What would he say to her? He didn't have a response, and honestly, if he did, I didn't want to hear it anymore. I knew the answer. I told him that as the woman who is supposed to be his wife, me, and the baby I am carrying should be his top priority, not his twin sister. I told him his going behind my back like this for something as important as the gender of our baby is absolutely unforgivable. There is nothing he can say or do to rectify this now. I told him I will no longer be marrying him, but it's up to him if he wants to cancel all the vendors. I said, "You're more than welcome to use it all to marry Kayla, seeing as she's the one you obviously care about the most." He tried to backtrack, apologize, and explain, but every time, I just cut him off and told him that I had heard enough and my decision was final. There is no turning back now. If he wants to have even the slightest chance to win me back and have a genuine relationship with our baby, he will need to attend some serious therapy and do a lot of work on himself and his relationship with Kayla. I told him no woman in her right mind would ever marry him while he was this infatuated with her. I told him that any future contact we have will be through my lawyer. I want nothing to do with his family, and if I get what I want, they will have nothing to do with my daughter, because I'll be damned if I let him subject her to this treatment. I placed my lawyer's name and phone number on the table and walked out. He didn't try to follow me, so now, in addition to dealing with my lawyer for the custody case, do I have to file a complaint with my OB office? Are they permitted to just provide him with this information without my explicit consent? Or did me foolishly including him on the information release form I signed grant them blanket consent to share any and all information with him? God, I didn't think this could worsen, but I guess that's on me for being naive. I'm glad I recorded the conversation though, and got him admitting to doing all of this. I don't know how or if it will assist my custody case, but I sent it to my lawyer with a note that we can discuss more on Friday. I'm back at Sam's place now. She was already at work when I returned, but I texted her to wake me up when she gets home. I need my sister. I also called my mother and told her everything that has happened so far. She cried with me for a while and then asked me if I needed her to do anything. I asked her if she'd be willing to go to the house with Sam and retrieve the rest of my belongings because I do not wish to see Nate right now. Just picturing his face makes me feel ill. She said she is more than willing. Kayla did message me again. I'm assuming Nate spoke to her after I left. It was a very long, cruel message that I prefer not to reiterate here. I can post a screenshot if anyone desires the full message if I can figure out how to attach one. But to summarize, she just called me a delusional control freak, who can't let Nate make any decisions for himself, and insulted my venue choice once again, and then said that she hopes my baby is stillborn because I don't deserve to be a mother. Honestly, after reading it, I thought the message would hurt, but it just gave me a really good laugh. I took a screenshot and sent it to my lawyer as well, and that's where we're at. The wedding is off. I will call all the vendors tomorrow and see if we can reclaim any deposits. If not, I'll inform them to contact Nate and Kayla to see if they would like to proceed with things as planned. Let them host a party for all I care, but I will be canceling my venue regardless of my refund. Neither of them is going to set foot in that sacred place if I can prevent it. I didn't realize how much this was weighing on me until now. I feel like a huge burden has been lifted from my shoulders, even though a new one is settling very quickly. Writing everything out like this is truly so incredibly helpful for me to process how I'm feeling and what I need to do. Update 2. Now on to the wild journey this week has been. After I sent the lawyer the evidence from my conversation with Nate and the truly vile message Kayla sent me, stillborn comment and all, yes, I nearly vomited reading it. Thank you for validating how monstrous it was. Sam and my mom returned to my former house while I worked on canceling the wedding vendors from Sam's living room with a mug of peppermint tea and stress tears streaming down my face. Some deposits are refundable. Most aren't, but honestly at this point I don't even care. I just want nothing with my and my father's name attached to it to be associated with Nate or Kayla ever again. When Sam and my mom returned with my belongings and not one, but 2 garbage bags full of Kayla's possessions that she'd broken into my closet with, over the past 3 years, a just-in-case-I-stay-over assortment, my mom hugged me so tightly I think she cracked my back in 3 places. Then she looked me in the eye and told me, "Your father would be so proud of you." I honestly needed that so much. Sam just glared down at the bags and said, "Next time she leaves her Spanx at your house, burn them." Sometimes sisters truly do know precisely what you need to hear. Meanwhile, and I nearly burst out laughing at the pettiness, Kayla apparently threw an entire Facebook tantrum about being disrespected and abused by me, the controlling bride who pushed her fiancé away. It was a whole soap opera. The comments, however, did not go as she had planned. Her own cousin, who'd always struck me as quiet, commented, "Girl, if you put this much energy into your own marriage, it wouldn't be dead." While her mother-in-law replied with an eye-roll emoji. Nate hasn't posted a thing, but he did send me 2 messages. One apologizing, one demanding to know if I'd set people against Kayla. Both were left on read. Then it worsened, or in a way improved, because now at least I know for certain I'm making the right decisions. Nate's mom called me. Yes, and at first I didn't answer out of self-preservation, but she followed up with a text saying, "It's urgent, please," as a mother. I finally picked up. She was crying, not angry, not bitter, just exhausted. The dam basically broke. She confessed that Kayla and Nate had always had an unhealthy attachment. She said, "I know you think I didn't see it, but I did. I just never knew how to rein it in." She said she'd read my Reddit post, LOL. Hi, if you're reading here, future mother-in-law. And that it made her sick to see how things turned out, and that she couldn't believe Kayla sent that message about my baby. She even offered, unprompted, to write a statement for character reference if it came to a custody situation, and said she'd already called Kayla to tell her the next interaction would be through a lawyer herself if she ever messaged me again. She also promised she'd make sure Kayla never sets foot near the ceremony venue. That call was a rare moment of catharsis and proof. Maybe cycles can be broken. Time will tell, but for this baby's safety, trust will be hard-won. By Friday, the day of my lawyer's appointment, I had astonishingly received 2 envelopes at Sam's door. First, a very formal letter from Nate's lawyer, basically outlining an amicable separation proposal. Split the house and agree on a fair co-parenting schedule. Standard stuff, except in the margins, there was a handwritten note from Nate himself. "I miss you. I can't believe you'd throw it all away." Shredded that on the spot. The second was from Kayla. A wedding invitation. And not just any wedding invitation. An insider wedding dinner party hosted by the Smith family to celebrate the new beginnings of Nate and Kayla's future. There was even a fake Photoshop picture of Nate and Kayla on the card, dressed in wedding outfits cut and pasted from my own engagement photos. The guest list: siblings and friends only, please RSVP by June. I lost it. At first, I laughed so hard Sam thought I'd finally lost my mind. Then I took photos of everything and sent them all to my lawyer. If this isn't proof of unhinged behavior, nothing is. That night, Kayla posted a wedding planning highlight to her Instagram. Tables, cake tastings, venues. The kicker: she tagged me in a story with the caption, "No hard feelings. Guess you just weren't ready for the big leagues, sweetheart." At this point, my lawyer is discussing not just a regular custody filing, but possible restraining orders based on harassment. She says, between the fake planner calls, venue sabotage, the level of manipulation, and now this full-on campaign of psychological warfare, I have a strong case to limit contact or at least get a no-contact order for me and argue for one relative to my daughter after birth, pending a judge's ruling. The lawyer also pointed out something I hadn't considered. By trying to change vendor contracts and impersonating a planner, Kayla could actually be at risk of civil charges. There are legal protections against representing someone in a contract fraudulently. If, and she said it's only an if, I am willing to pursue, I might actually be able to sue for damages regarding the venue fees lost due to her actions. I'm not sure how I feel about that yet, but it's empowering to know I have some recourse. As for Nate, last night around 3 a.m. he sent me the most desperate, muddled string of texts I've ever seen. I miss you. I'm falling apart. Kayla won't talk to me. My mom is furious. The wedding is off and she's making me return the suits. I'm sorry. I love you. Please can't we just talk? I didn't reply. I'm not replying anymore. If there's one thing this week taught me, it's that you can't rescue someone who refuses to detach themselves from their own unhealthy patterns. So what now? My lawyer and I are moving forward with a custody strategy that prioritizes my daughters. Yes, it's a girl. Safety and my mental well-being. I'm letting myself be happy for the first time. I'm searching for apartments from Sam's couch. She and my mom are both a little too excited at the idea of painting a nursery together. The wedding is absolutely, officially, irrevocably off. Kayla remains blocked and continues with her deranged Instagram stories, and apparently an imaginary wedding. Nate is left to figure out where he ends and Kayla and his childhood begin. But honestly, the most important update is this. For the first time in months, I feel like myself again. Not the irrational one, not the hormonal one, not even just the bride, just myself, soon to be a real mom. Thank you for giving me the courage and perspective I needed to put an end to this toxic circus. If another twist emerges, I wouldn't be surprised. Trust me, I'll keep you all informed. But for now, I'm concentrating on healing on my baby, and on the small joy of never ever again having to worry about someone else's wedding palette opinions. And yes, I may very well paint that nursery in a ridiculous, wonderful pastel yellow just for me. Thanks for reading, and to my fellow survivors of sibling-in-laws from hell. You're not alone and you're not irrational.